My parents always praised my responsibility, using it as a shield while showering my sister with everything I worked for. This Christmas, their generosity would backfire spectacularly, forcing me to decide if I'd finally cash in on the very strength they claimed to admire. The air in our house on Christmas morning always smells the same. A mix of fresh pine from the tree, cinnamon from my mom's baking, and the faint, crisp scent of a Michigan winter just outside the window. It's a smell that used to mean comfort and joy. This year, it just felt like the calm before a storm I didn't know was coming. My sister, Chloe, who is 2 years younger, was practically vibrating with excitement, filming everything for her lifestyle social media channels. I, on the other hand, was just trying to enjoy a rare day off from my nursing shifts at the hospital. The gift opening was standard fare. I got a lovely cashmere sweater from my parents, a gift card to my favorite coffee shop, thoughtful, practical things. I was genuinely grateful. Chloe unwrapped designer bags, a new vlogging camera, and a mountain of clothes. This was our normal. I was the responsible, practical daughter. She was the creative, free-spirited one. That's how my parents had always framed it. I went to nursing school, worked double shifts, and was meticulously saving every spare penny for a down payment on a small house. Chloe lived at home, was finding herself, and spent her days trying to become an influencer. Then came the final gift, a single, small, beautifully wrapped box for Chloe. She opened it theatrically for her phone camera, and her gasp sucked all the air out of the room. Inside was a single shiny key attached to a keychain engraved with an address. My mom was beaming, tears in her eyes. "It's a condo, sweetie," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "Downtown. It's all yours. We wanted you to have a place to truly start your life." I just sat there, the wrapping paper in my lap, suddenly feeling like trash. A condo, a fully furnished two-bedroom condo in the trendiest part of the city. I knew the prices there. We were talking $500,000, easy. Chloe was sobbing with joy, hugging my parents, and I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. All my 16-hour shifts, my ramen noodle dinners, my careful budgeting, it all felt like a joke. Later that day, after the flurry of excitement died down, I found my parents alone in the kitchen. I tried to keep my voice even. "A condo?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "How could you do that?" My dad put his arm around me in that familiar, placating way. "Sweetheart, look at you," he said warmly. "You're a rock star, a respected nurse. You have a great career, fantastic credit. You've already got a huge chunk saved up for a house. We are so incredibly proud of you." My mom nodded in agreement, adding, "Chloe, well, she just needs a little more help to get started. She has so much potential, but that industry is tough. She needs a stable place to build her brand." I pulled away, the warmth of my dad's arm suddenly feeling suffocating. "So because I've worked hard, because I've been responsible, I get nothing? I'm struggling to save for a tiny starter home, and you just gave her one?" My dad's smile tightened, and then he delivered the line that shattered the last bit of my composure. "It's not that you get nothing, honey. It's that you don't need our help. You're strong. You've got it all figured out." He said it like it was the highest compliment in the world, but it felt like a punishment, a penalty for being independent. I didn't fight. I didn't yell. I just felt a profound, chilling sense of clarity. I nodded, grabbed my coat, and walked out the door without saying another word. For the next 2 months, I kept my distance. I was polite, but brief on the phone. I focused on my work, picked up even more overtime, and told my realtor I was ready to start looking more seriously, even if it meant being house poor for a while. I was going to do it myself, just like they always expected me to. I was done with them. Then, one evening, my phone buzzed. It was my dad. His voice, when I answered, was nothing like his usual cheerful tone. It was tight, strained, and filled with a panic I had never heard before. "Honey," he started, his voice cracking, "we need your help." It's an emergency. There was a problem." I gripped the phone, my heart starting to pound. "A problem with what?" There was a long pause on the other end, and I could hear my mom crying softly in the background. Then my dad took a shaky breath and said, "It's about the condo." The bank called. Chloe's application for the mortgage we co-signed. It was rejected. I stood there in my own small rented apartment, the silence buzzing around me. "Rejected," I repeated, the word tasting like ash in my mouth. "What do you mean, rejected?" "You gave her the key. You had a party. Chloe has posted 100 videos from inside that place." "We know, honey." My dad's voice was frayed. We wanted it to be a sure thing. We put down a huge non-refundable deposit to secure it before Christmas. The financing was supposed to be a formality. We co-signed. We thought our income would be more than enough to cover it. He took a shaky breath. But they looked at Chloe's finances, too. Her credit, honey, it's a disaster. Maxed out cards, missed payments. The bank sees her as a massive liability. And with the money we put down, our own debt-to-income ratio is too high now. They won't approve the loan as it stands. I leaned against my kitchen counter, a cold, hollow feeling spreading through my chest. The irony was so thick I could choke on it. The strong one. The one who had it all figured out. My perfect credit score, the one I'd built meticulously since I was 18, suddenly flashed in my mind. And I knew, with sickening certainty, what was coming next. "We need you, honey," my mom's voice cut in, tearful and pleading. "The bank said if we had another co-signer, someone with a stable career and excellent credit, the loan would go through without a problem. It's just a signature, that's all. It wouldn't cost you anything. Just a signature. A signature that would legally tie my entire financial future to my flaky sister and my financially reckless parents. A signature that would make it nearly impossible for me to get my own mortgage for the small, sensible house I had worked so hard for. They weren't just asking for help. They were asking me to set my own dream on fire to keep theirs from turning to smoke. "Let me get this straight," I said, my voice dangerously calm. "You spent what I assume is your retirement savings on a down payment for a condo Chloe can't afford, without making sure the financing was even approved. And now you want me to leverage my entire future, the one I built with no help from you, to fix your mistake?" It's not a mistake, my dad insisted, his panic turning to frustration. It's an investment in your sister. Family is supposed to help each other. Family? I laughed, a short, bitter sound. You told me on Christmas Day that I didn't need help because I was strong. You punished me for my responsibility, and now you want to cash in on it. The silence on the other end of the line was heavy with their shame. I could hear my mom's quiet sobs. For a moment, a flicker of the old, dutiful daughter wanted to soothe her, to say it would all be okay. But I stamped it out. That girl was gone. She'd been left behind in a pile of wrapping paper on Christmas morning. You have until Friday, my dad said, his voice dropping to a desperate whisper. If we don't have a new co-signer by then, the deal falls through. We lose the deposit. We lose everything, honey. Please, everything. They were always so dramatic. I thought about the thousands of dollars I had in my savings account, a sum that felt monumental to me but was probably a pittance compared to what they were about to lose. I could say no. I could hang up the phone and block their numbers and let their gilded cage come crashing down. And a part of me, a dark, angry part, desperately wanted to. But I also knew I couldn't live with the fallout. Not really. I took a deep breath. Fine, I said, the word feeling foreign on my tongue. I will consider it. A wave of audible relief came through the phone. But, I cut them off sharply, this will not be a conversation over the phone. We are going to meet tomorrow night at my apartment, and you will bring all of the paperwork, the purchase agreement, the loan application, the bank's rejection letter, Chloe's credit report, and your financial statements. I want to see everything. There was a stunned silence. And Dad? I added, my voice as cold and sharp as a scalpel. Make sure Chloe is there. If we're going to discuss her inability to manage her own life, I want her to hear it from me directly. The next evening, my small apartment felt like a pressure cooker. My parents sat awkwardly on my second-hand couch, a manila folder overflowing with documents sitting on the coffee table between us. Chloe was perched on an armchair, scrolling through her phone, pretending to be completely unfazed. She was dressed like she was attending a fashion show, not a financial intervention, in a ridiculously expensive-looking coat that she hadn't bothered to take off. The air was thick with unspoken resentment. I sat opposite them, a pot of coffee brewing in the kitchen, its bitter aroma the only thing cutting through the tension. I let them sit in silence for a full 5 minutes before I spoke. All right, I said, my voice crisp and professional, the same tone I used with difficult patients. Let's begin. I spent the next hour poring over the paperwork. It was even worse than I had imagined. The deposit they'd put down was astronomical, almost everything they had liquid. The mortgage payments were eye-watering, and Chloe's credit report was a Jackson Pollock painting of debt and delinquency. She hadn't made a student loan payment in over a year, and had multiple credit cards charged to the absolute limit. She was financially drowning, and my parents had just thrown her an anchor made of granite. So, I finally said, pushing the papers back across the table, you expect me to co-sign this, to chain myself to this disaster? Chloe finally looked up from her phone, a sneer on her perfectly made-up face. "It's not a disaster," she said haughtily. "It's called living your life. You wouldn't understand. You just work and save. It's boring." "Boring got me a credit score of 810, Chloe," I shot back, my patience snapping. "Boring is what's going to get me a house. And boring is what you need right now to not be homeless when Mom and Dad lose all their money on this condo." "We're not going to lose it if you just help," my mom cried, her face crumpled with stress. "It's just a signature." "It's never just a signature." I stood up, pacing the small living room. "This signature makes me 100% liable for $500,000 of debt. If Chloe here decides her brand needs a trip to Bali instead of paying the mortgage, the bank comes after me. My salary gets garnished, my house savings get wiped out, my future gets destroyed." "We would never let that happen," my dad said, but his voice lacked conviction. He knew they had no control over Chloe. They never had. I stopped pacing and faced them, my decision solidifying in my gut. This wasn't just about money anymore. It was about respect. It was about the years of being the responsible one while they enabled Chloe's every whim. This was my chance to change the dynamic permanently. "I'm not signing it," I said. The finality in my voice made my mother gasp. Chloe rolled her eyes, but I saw a flicker of panic in them. "You can't do this to us," my dad whispered, looking utterly defeated. "I'm not doing anything to you," I corrected him. "I'm offering you a different solution, a better one." I took a deep breath, the audacity of my own plan making my heart hammer against my ribs. "I will not co-sign the loan, but I will take over the loan." They stared at me, dumbfounded. "What are you talking about?" my mom asked. "You're going to lose the deposit anyway," I explained, the pieces clicking into place in my mind. "Sign the purchase agreement over to me. I'll use my savings as a down payment. With my income and my credit, the bank will approve me for the mortgage on my own in a heartbeat. The condo will be mine, solely in my name." Chloe shot out of her chair. "What? No, that's my condo. It was a gift." "It was a gift you couldn't afford," I said, turning to face her, my voice dropping to a low, dangerous tone. "A gift you were about to lose. This is the only way to save Mom and Dad's investment. They get their money back, and the property stays in the family." You'd do that?" my dad asked, a fragile hope dawning in his eyes. "Yes," I said. "The condo becomes mine, title, deed, everything. And Chloe," I locked eyes with my stunned sister, "can pay me rent, at market rate, if she wants to live there." The color drained from Chloe's face. My parents looked back and forth between us, their minds struggling to process the monumental shift in power that was happening in my tiny living room. For the first time in my entire life, I held all the cards. I was no longer the reliable safety net. I was the bank. My dad opened his mouth, then closed it. He looked at my mom, who just stared at the floor. He knew I was right. This was their only way out. Finally, he looked at me, a man completely broken. "Okay," he croaked. "Okay, we'll do it." But I wasn't finished. I held up a hand. "There's one more condition," I said, letting the silence stretch until it was almost unbearable. My gaze fell on the expensive coat still draped over my sister's shoulders. "Before I sign a single piece of paper, we're going to have a little lesson in financial responsibility. Tomorrow morning you and I are going to the bank, Chloe, and you're going to stand there and watch me deposit the check from the sale of your brand-new car." The look on Chloe's face was a mixture of pure fury and utter disbelief. "My car? You want me to sell my car? I just got it. My followers love it." "Your followers aren't going to pay your rent, Chloe," I said calmly, crossing my arms. "That car payment, which I see from your statements you're 2 months behind on, is more than enough for a security deposit and first month's rent. Consider it your first taste of the real world. You want the influencer lifestyle? Fine, but you're going to fund it yourself, starting now." My parents didn't protest. They just sat there, deflated, as the full weight of their financial mismanagement came crashing down. The next few days were a blur of frantic activity. Chloe, after a spectacular tantrum that involved a lot of screaming about me ruining her life, eventually relented. She knew she had no other choice. Watching her hand over the keys to the shiny convertible she'd flaunted all over social media gave me a grim, hollow sense of satisfaction. It wasn't about revenge. It was about consequences. A concept she had never been forced to grasp. The bank meeting was exactly as I predicted. The loan officer, who had previously been so dismissive, practically beamed at me when she saw my financials. The mortgage was approved within an hour, entirely in my name. I used my house savings for the down payment, and my parents, looking smaller and older than I'd ever seen them, signed over the purchase agreement. There were no tears of joy this time, no celebratory hugs. Just the quiet scratch of a pen sealing a new reality. The first month was rough. Chloe treated me like a warden, not a landlord. She paid her rent on the last possible day, slamming the check onto my new kitchen counter. She complained about everything, from the brand of toilet paper to the fact that I didn't allow parties on weeknights. I just calmly pointed to the lease agreement we had both signed. For every complaint, I had a clause. She was living in my house, and she had to follow my rules. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, something began to shift. Without the constant safety net of our parents' money, Chloe had to get a real job. She started working part-time at a high-end boutique downtown, using her fashion sense for something other than selfies. It wasn't her dream, but it was a paycheck. She started talking about the rude customers and her demanding boss. For the first time, we had something in common, a long, hard day at work. My relationship with my parents began to heal, too, but it was different. The dynamic was reset. They treated me not as their reliable child, but as an equal. They asked for my advice on their budget. They started rebuilding their retirement fund. They still helped Chloe, but with practical things, like a home-cooked meal, not a blank check. About a year later, I came home from a double shift at the hospital, exhausted to my bones. I walked into the condo, my condo, and found Chloe in the kitchen packing a box. My heart lurched for a second, but she just smiled, a genuine, tired smile I hadn't seen on her face in years. "Don't worry, I'm not breaking the lease," she said. My friend from work is looking for a roommate. It's smaller and not nearly as nice as this place, but it's cheaper. And I think I need to do it. On my own. She handed me an envelope. Inside was a check for the next month's rent, paid in full and a week early. Tucked behind it was a gift card to my favorite coffee shop. "To say thank you," she said, her voice a little shaky. "For, you know, for everything. You were right. I was a spoiled brat." I looked at my sister, really looked at her, and saw not the carefree influencer she pretended to be, but a young woman finally standing on her own 2 feet. And in that moment, all the anger and resentment I had held on to for so long just melted away. They had given her a condo to start her life, but it was a life she wasn't ready for. I had given her a bill, a lease, and a set of rules, and somehow that had been the gift that actually helped her grow up. That evening, for the first time in over a year, we sat together on the couch, not as a landlord and a tenant, but just as sisters, talking about our long, hard, boring, and wonderful day.